Hey, it's Sam from Spun, and today we are making a creamy Southwest chicken soup. I am really excited to share this recipe with you. It is super hearty, super indulgent. It is a great cold weather food, though I would totally eat this in the summer as well. I went back and forth about whether I should call it a soup, a stew, or a chili, keeping it as a soup, but it's very hearty, and I think you could get away with calling it some kind of chili as well. So let's get right to it. You are going to need a large soup pot for today's recipe. I love my Dutch oven. And I'm going to turn this to medium heat, my little portable stovetop here, just a notch above medium actually. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. You can use salted or unsalted, use whatever you have on hand. With soups and anything where you're using a stock, the amount of salt that you're going to need to add is always going to be variable. So you can get away with using whatever you have on hand because we're going to be adding salt to taste. So let's get this nice and melted. Okay, once your butter is melted, let's start cooking some veggies. So I start with a cup of chopped or diced yellow onion or sweet onion. You could even use a white onion for this recipe. All of those would work well. This is about 1 medium yellow onion. I'm going to add that. I'm also going to add 1 diced red bell pepper. If you wanted to use yellow or orange, you could as well. Green has a slightly different flavor, so I generally don't use a green bell pepper for this recipe. You could, it's just not my preference. And then I also add some jalapeno. So this is going to add an extra kick. If you don't like too much heat, you could leave this out. We're going to be adding some canned chilies later on, but it does add a nice kick, and it has a little bit of that, it adds a little Southwest flavor. I cut my jalapeno pretty small and fine, and when I cut it, I remove the ribs and I remove the seeds, otherwise the soup would be a little too spicy. So this is going to cook with our pepper and onion. Let's get it tossed in there with the butter so things can get softening. And softening this usually takes about 5 minutes or so. Just stir it periodically so nothing burns. Now, when I'm doing these videos, I usually have everything prepped and ready to go. Let me know if you want to see more of the prep process. I usually think, oh, nobody wants to watch me cut an onion or, mince garlic, but maybe that's something you don't do too often in your own kitchen or you're new to cooking. Let me know if you want to see those steps, and I'll see what I can do about including them. Okay, once our veggies are nice and softened, we're going to add our garlic, which I minced off camera. I made Nikki mince this, so I'm not gonna make her mince it. If you guys wanna see how it's done, I'll do it. This is a tablespoon of garlic. I like to go by amount, like a tablespoon rather than cloves, because cloves can vary so much in size. We're going to add a tablespoon of garlic. You can go a little heavy on that if you want. And we're just going to cook this until it's softened. It takes like 30 seconds. Okay, and that smells so good. So now we're going to start adding some spices. They'll coat all these veggies nicely and get a little bit toasted, which helps with their flavor a bit. First thing is a tablespoon of chili powder, specifically ancho chili powder. Love ancho chili powder. It can be harder to find. I mean, I get it at Walmart when I get it, but they don't always have it in stock. So this has a much smokier and kind of like a subtly sweet flavor that regular chili powder doesn't have. So I love it. And a lot of my recipes use this ingredient. We are also going to add 1.5 teaspoons of smoked paprika. This recipe has a really nice smoky flavor. A teaspoon of cumin, ground cumin. 1/4 teaspoon of dried oregano. A teaspoon of table salt, that's what we're gonna start with anyway, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper. Let's get these toasted. I don't want anything to burn. Okay, let me talk quickly here because things are dry. They could start burning. We are going to add 2 10-ounce cans of original Rotel. Get one in there right now, that way I don't have to worry about burning. Sorry, my camera's gonna get all steamed up. Rotel is diced tomatoes and green chilies. Most grocery stores carry this, though not always in the same section where you would get like your regular diced tomatoes. Sometimes they're in like the Mexican section. If you cannot find Rotel, what you want to use instead is a 14.5 or 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes or fire roasted diced tomatoes, either would be great. And then you want to use a 7-ounce can of diced green chilies. They could be fire roasted green chilies. So that is a perfectly fine substitute. Next up are beans. Southwest recipe needs to have beans, of course. This is a 15-ounce can of black beans. They have been rinsed and drained. Add these in. And then a can of rinsed and drained pinto beans. We're also going to add some corn, of course. I use frozen corn. This is 1 1/4 cups of frozen corn. You could use fresh corn if you prefer. That's totally fine. And then let me give this a quick stir before I add my chicken broth. Okay, so I like this soup to be pretty thick. Like I said, it kind of leans into the chili territory a little bit. So I'm going to be adding 3 cups of chicken broth. Let me drizzle this in. If you want a thinner soup, you could up this to 4 cups of broth, but 3 is really my recommendation. All right, so where does the chicken come in? When I'm making soup, I like to keep things pretty simple, so I usually will use raw chicken and I'll cook it in the soup. If you have like leftover chicken or a rotisserie chicken you want to use, I will go ahead and put instructions in the description, and of course over on my website on how you could substitute that instead. But we are using raw chicken today. You'll need a pound of chicken. I'm using chicken breast today because that's what I have on hand, but really I like to use a blend of chicken breast and chicken thighs just because that dark meat has adds a really nice flavor to it. So you can probably see I've cut each breast in half. This is just going to help it cook a little bit faster. Let me go ahead and add this. Should have done this with tongs, but. So I'm going to separate the chicken a little bit so none of the pieces are on top of any of the others. I want to make sure they're all completely submerged as well. And we're just going to cook the chicken in the soup, which I do this for a number of my chicken soup recipes. And I'll get people, he'll say, oh, it's raw chicken. How can you put it in soup? Well, we're cooking it. Anytime you cook chicken, it usually starts, raw. So I'm going to bring this to a boil, just turn up my heat a little bit to medium high, and we'll bring it to a boil. The chicken usually needs to boil for 15 to 20 minutes before it is cooked through. Once it's cooked through, we're going to remove it to a plate, and you can either cut it into cubes or you can do what I prefer, and that is to shred it. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes. So let's take a look at our chicken. Let's put it over here. Okay, so it's very easy to tell if the chicken is done because it should shred super easily with a fork. And then look at that, nice and white inside. It's not pink or anything like that. So you can shred it with a fork, pair of forks, or as I said, you could cut it up, but I always just shred it. I like shredded chicken in my soup, and I don't like cubed chicken, and I don't know why, but that's how it is. All right, once that's nicely shredded, we are going to return this to the pot. I turned down the heat as well, so I've brought the heat down to just a simmer. I'm going to stir in this chicken. And then this is a creamy Southwest chicken soup. So that's where the cream cheese comes into play. We're using 6 ounces of cream cheese. I have let this sit out to soften some, and I've also cut it into 6 little pieces. No, that's not 6 pieces, like 8 pieces. That way it just melts a little bit more evenly. Get it all in there. You don't waste cream cheese around here, not around these parts. Let's get this cream cheese mixed in, it'll melt. And then basically all that's left to do is taste test. And you always want to taste test in case you need more salt or pepper, which I usually don't. And once that cream cheese is melted in, it should be completely smooth. So a quick little taste test. It's perfect. The soup's already spent a fair amount of time simmering while the chicken was cooking, so it should be perfectly flavorful and ready to serve now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get myself a bowl. I'm ready for lunch. Now, I really recommend toppings for this soup. Of course, it's delicious plain, but if you add a little bit of sour cream, some corn chips, cilantro, definitely try it with a squeeze of lime juice. That is so good. It adds such a nice flavor. Optional, but recommended. I think you are really going to love this one if you try it, and I hope you do. Thank you so much for watching today's recipe, and I will see you next time. This is still pretty hot. That is good soup. It was a spicy jalapeno too. Got a nice kick to it.